Welcome to MRL. In this learning session, we'll be learning about fractions. Now, what is a fraction? Fraction is a part of a whole. Now, what does that mean? So, let us take, for example, a square is divided into four parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and in that one part is chosen, so therefore the fraction is 1 by 4 or 1 upon 4. So the numerator, a fraction has two parts, a numerator and a denominator, and numerator is 1 and the denominator is 4. Here D indicates into how many equal parts the whole thing is divided. Now this whole thing is divided into four parts, therefore D is 4. And how many parts are chosen? 1, and therefore N indicates the number of parts chosen from the equal number of parts. So therefore remember, the fraction is n upon d, where n is the numerator, d is the denominator. D indicates into how many parts the whole is divided, and n indicates the number of parts chosen from the equal number of parts. Now here one more example. Here a circle is divided into four parts, and in that two parts are chosen. Therefore d is 4, n is 2, therefore the fraction is n upon d, which is 2 upon 4, where if I take a HCF of 2 and 4, it is 2 divided by 2, we get 1 and 1 upon 2. Therefore the fraction is 1 upon 2. It's a simple thing for us to remember. It's a very important part of mathematics. Now there are different types of fractions. We have proper fraction, improper fraction, mixed, like, unlike, equivalent, representative fraction, compound fraction, complex fraction, continued fraction, reciprocal fraction, and decimal fraction. So there are different types of fractions. Let us learn them one by one. Now let us take a proper fraction. A fraction n upon d. As we know, n upon d is a fraction, n is the numerator, d is the denominator. So a fraction n upon d where the denominator is greater than the numerator. Please understand this. Where the denominator is greater than the numerator, then the fraction n upon d is a proper fraction. Let us take one example. 2 upon 5 is a proper fraction because denominator is greater than numerator. 3 upon 7 is a proper fraction because the denominator 7 is greater than the numerator. So whenever denominator is greater than the numerator, then it is a proper fraction. Now the second one is the improper fraction. A fraction n upon d is an improper fraction if d is less than n, or numerator is greater than denominator, or denominator is less than numerator. For example, 5 upon 2 is an improper fraction because 5 is greater than 2. That means the numerator is greater than the denominator. 7 upon 3 is an improper fraction because 7 is greater than 3, or the numerator is greater than the denominator. Now let us talk about mixed fraction. A fraction which has two parts, the whole part and the proper fraction part. For example, 1 and a half is a mixed fraction. Here 1 is the whole part and 1 by 2 is the proper fraction part. Remember, only improper fractions can be converted into mixed fractions. Again I'll repeat, only improper fractions can be converted into mixed fractions. For example, 5 upon 2 is an improper fraction because 5 is greater than 2, or numerator is greater than the denominator, and to convert this into a mixed fraction, divide 5 by 2. So when I divide 5 by 2, 2 to the 4, remainder is 1, therefore it is 2 plus 1 by 2, or 2 and a half, 2 integer 1 by 2. So this is a mixed fraction. So therefore remember, 5 by 2 is nothing but 5 into half. So here if you see, there are two parts, one is chosen. Here are two parts, one is chosen. Here one part, half is taken. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus a half is 2 and a half. Now like fractions. Fractions with same denominators. Again I'll repeat, fractions with same denominators are called like fractions. Here we have a fraction 3 by 11, 9 by 11, 5 by 11. They are all like fractions because the denominator is the same. Unlike fractions, the fractions with different denominators are called unlike fractions. Here 3 by 11, 9 by 12, 5 by 14 are unlike fractions because the denominators are different, 11, 12 and 14. Now representative fraction, or simplest form of a fraction, or standard form of a fraction. So let us understand, all mean the same here. Representative fraction, simplest form of fraction, and standard form of fraction all mean the same. Let us take an example. So for example, let us say we have a fraction n upon d. When we divide n and d by their HCF, again I'll repeat, divide n and d, that is numerator and denominator of a fraction, if they are divided by their HCF, then we get the representative fraction, or the simplest form of fraction, or the standard form of a fraction. So let us take an example. Let us say 36 by 54 is a fraction. 36 is the numerator, 54 is the denominator. The HCF of 36 and 54 is 18. Divide 36 by 18, 54 by 18, we get 2 by 3. So 2 by 3 is the representative fraction of 36 by 54, or it is the standard form of 36 by 54, or it is the simplest form of 36 by 54. So fractions with same representative fraction, again I'll repeat, fractions with same representative fraction are equivalent fractions. So with this representative fraction, we can write as many equivalent fractions we require. So therefore remember, fractions with same representative fraction are equivalent fractions. In other words, the equivalent fractions are those which have the same representative fraction. So please remember that. So therefore I have made a note here. The fraction which represents the equivalent fractions in the simplest form is called representative fraction, and the representative fraction is the simplest form of equivalent fractions, or equivalent fractions are those fractions which have the same simplest form. Now let us go for another example, that is the next one, that is compound fraction. The fraction of a fraction is called compound fraction. The fraction of a fraction, that means 1 by 3 of 1 by 2, it is a compound fraction. Next point, complex fraction. In a fraction, if n and d are both fractions, again I'll repeat, in a fraction, if numerator and denominator are both fractions, then it is a complex fraction. For example, here 2 by 3 is a fraction, 7 by 8 is a fraction, and therefore the numerator is 2 by 3, 7 by 8, it itself is a fraction. That is called as a complex fraction. Rather, in a complex fraction, the numerator has to be a fraction and the denominator also has to be a fraction. Now continued fraction. A fraction with fractional denominators is a continued fraction. Please remember this. A fraction with fractional denominators. We have a whole number, whole part here, and we have got a fractional part in which the denominators are all fractionals. So therefore the denominator itself is fraction. See here, if you see 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 plus 1, again a whole part and a fraction, again a whole part and a fraction, such fractions are called continued fractions. Remember that. Reciprocal fraction. If n upon d is a fraction, then d upon n is a reciprocal fraction. Observe here, n is made denominator, denominator is made numerator here. So n upon d is d upon n, and d upon n is the reciprocal of n upon d, or n upon d is the reciprocal of d upon n, and when we multiply n upon d into d upon n, we get 1. Therefore the product of a fraction and its reciprocal is always 1. So let us take an example. If 6 by 11 is a fraction, then 11 by 6 is its reciprocal. The product of the fraction 6 by 11 and its reciprocal is 11 by 6 is 1. Therefore remember, the product of fraction and its reciprocal is always 1. Now decimal fractions. The fractions with d as 10, 100 or multiples of 10 is a decimal fraction. Therefore 3 upon 10 is a decimal fraction, 15 upon 100 is a decimal fraction, 127 by 1000 is also a decimal fraction, because in the denominator we have powers of 10. Here it is 10, here it is 10 raised to 2, and here it is 10 raised to 3. Now conversion of unlike fractions into like fractions. So let us understand this. Now to convert unlike fractions into like fractions. Now what are unlike fractions? Where the denominators are different. Here we have 35 and 21. So therefore find the LCM of 35 and 21, which is 105. So convert 6 by 35 such that we have the denominator is 105, and for that I have to multiply 35 by 3 and 6 by 3. I'll get 18 by 105. So also 10 by 21, convert 21 into 105. For that I have to multiply 21 by 5 and 10 by 5. I get 50 by 105. So therefore 18 divided by 105 and 50 divided by 105 are like fractions, because the denominators are the same now. Earlier the denominators were different, therefore unlike, and now the denominators are same, they are now like fractions, and that is the procedure of converting the unlike fractions into like fractions. Now comparison of like fractions. When I say comparison, no, two fractions would be given to you. You have to compare means you have to show them they are either equal, greater or smaller. Now let's say for example, if fractions are like, compare the numerators. Fraction with greater numerator is always greater. Now let us understand this with an example. 8 by 11 is a fraction, 12 by 11 is a fraction, and both the fractions are like fractions here. If the denominators are same, they are like fractions. When the fractions are like, just compare the numerators. The 8 is here, 8 and 12. here 12 is greater than 8, and therefore 12 by 11 is greater than 8 by 11, and that is the method of comparing the like fractions. Comparison of unlike fractions. Now we cannot compare unlike fractions. First we have to convert them into like fractions and then follow the procedure of a comparison of like fractions. So first thing is convert them into like fractions. Let us take an example and understand it. 2 by 3 and 5 by 7, the denominators are different, they are unlike fractions, and now convert them into like fractions by taking the LCM of 3 and 7. It is 21. So 3 into 7 is 21, and 2 into 7 is 14. 14 by 21 is the fraction of 2 by 3. 5 by 7 is 5 into 3 is 15. 7 is 21. The 21 are the denominators in both the fractions here, and therefore 14 by 21 and 15 by 21 are like fractions, and here 15 is greater than 14, and therefore 15 by 21 is greater than 14 by 21, but 15 by 21 is 5 by 7 and 14 by 21 is 2 by 3, therefore 5 by 7 is greater than 2 by 3. So therefore comparing of unlike fractions is first convert them into like fractions and then compare the numerators. Whichever the numerator is greater, that will be the greater fraction.